Starting the recording.
Oh, ooh.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Welcome to the Pulse after Memorial Day. Hope everybody had a good day celebrating with family and remembering those who came before us and made it possible for us to celebrate. So we'll go through our updates this week, recording on a Tuesday. Thank you, Tamara, for pushing ahead and getting the updates for us today. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off? So just a reminder for everybody, rolling out in development and rolling out in development and launched are the three we're covering today because there's nothing in canceled. So in development means they're making it, they're figuring out what it means. They're back at headquarters or working remotely wherever they're at. That means Microsoft is working on it. Rolling out means it's rolling out to a server farm near you sometime soon. Sometimes there's dates associated with it, sometimes there's not. And launched means it should be in your tenant or should be coming very soon. But it's got an end date, it's got a goal, it's coming. So those are what the categories mean. So we're going to start with in development. So Tamara, why don't you kick us off and tell us about something cool that's in development?
Sure, I'd like to talk about e-signatures. So in Microsoft Teams, we're talking about e-signature approvals on mobile, view and take action. So users will be able to see their e-signature approvals on mobile devices and take action on them. As a recipient, they can view or review them, and as a creator, they can edit or cancel them. Then also the e-signature approvals creation on mobile. So users will now be able to create e-signature approvals on any mobile device. And then finally, the e-sign approvals fully embedded within the Teams approvals for a streamlined experience. Users can now seamlessly create and review e-signature approval requests directly in Teams, removing the need to access the e-sign provider website. This is all supposed to be coming out in June of 2022. I think this is a big reach. I think this is a big change. I think it's going to make a world of difference for a ton of people. And I expect it to get pushed back.
And our resident optimist has spoken.
Oh, that's so funny. So funny.
I prefer realist.
I refer to myself as a cynical optimist. I'd like to think it's all going to work out well, but probably won't.
All right, Eeyore.
Pretty much. So I've got a couple that are of interest to me, both in the Outlook realm. One is the Find Time add-in is moving to a native feature called Meeting Polls. So you're going to find this by default in Outlook for all users. And you can use Meeting Polls to choose specific time slots and share with those people inside and outside the organization, which I think is critical, so they can schedule a time with them. I think that's really cool. I've always kind of stayed away from Find Time because as an add-in, sometimes our company can be a little picky about add-ins and stuff, and I didn't want people to get involved with it and then have it pulled from them. Having it actually be part of Outlook now is really cool. And then the other thing that they've announced.
I will say, just a second, I will say on this one, we are in a first release tenant in our environment. And I will say that this one is going to cause a little bit of confusion for your users.
Okay.
And is going to require some training because it hit our tenant this week. And multiple threads went out that said, hey, this kind of looks like Find Time, but is it like Find Time? Oh, this kind of looks like Find Time, but it says Meeting Polls. Let's play with it. Is this Find Time? It's kind of like Find Time, but it's not called Find Time. It's almost like Find Time. And I had read this already. I knew it was coming, and I knew it was just Find Time renamed. So just an FYI.
Okay.
This one's coming. This one's going to need some love because people that are using Find Time, they're going to be like, who moved my cheese? And people that never use Find Time are going to be like, what is this? So just so everyone's aware, plan for this one. End users, this one's going to impact them. Super powerful tool, but those who have been using it are now going to be like, what? And those who haven't been using it are probably going to need to know what it is. So plan for that one when it comes out, because just in what's come out, it's been enough of a shocker that I've seen 3 threads on it already. And that's 3 too many when a feature changes, when it should just happen. So
Right.
now a lot could happen, because if I'm seeing threads, they're probably seeing threads. So it may roll out a little different by the time it rolls out. Still nothing major. It works, so it's not a big deal, but it's one that you probably want to plan some comms around.
Sounds cool. The other one in Outlook is update of the Rsvp user experience. And if this is the one I think it is, this is now giving you the option to say, yes, I'll attend, but it's also, yes, I'll attend in person and yes, I'll attend virtually, which I think in this world of hybrid meetings is a really nice distinction to where they can figure out if I'm having this in a conference room and I've invited 20 people, how many of those people are actually going to show up and try to fit in that conference room versus am I going to be the only person in the conference room because everybody else is attending virtually. So that should be out I almost said this month, in June, which starting tomorrow will be this month. So keep an eye open for that one. I think that one will be a really cool thing to be able to tell a little bit more if you've got people who are working in a hybrid type environment, whether they're going to be there or not. So cool stuff.
Also very fun if you're like me and Jen and Tamara and your whole company's remote and you can just troll people by always saying you're going to be in person.
Oh, you are so evil, Adam. I love it.
Those who work with Adam just never believe him anyway, so it's all
No,
good.
that's true too. But,
Just par for the course. Just ignore that guy making noise. It's okay.
Okay.
Well, I got one that will make all developers rejoice all over the world, and that will be Word in dark mode. So that's in development. I guess the world needs that Word in dark mode. It always makes me laugh when we see that. My husband will be happy. Julie White will be happy. Adam will probably be happy. There we go. But that one's coming. So I always giggle when I see those out there. Apparently people who like dark mode really like dark mode.
Oh,
Not
Well,
my
if
jam.
you're used to having
but-
everything on dark mode and you suddenly go into an app that's like default Microsoft Fury of the Sun blinding, then like it's noticeable.
This is like my husband and I are totally opposites, so he can always tell when I've touched any of his electronics because the brightness is turned all the way up, and so he'll be like, "You touched my computer," and I'll be like, "Well, yeah." So
It was the dog.
yeah,
the dog.
yeah.
There you go.
So that's one of mine. How about you, Adam? What do you have?
There's a couple nerdy ones that are kind of fun. So updates to Microsoft Purview. I'll probably mention this a time or two again. Purview is now the overall term they use for all compliancy things. So, but a couple updates to compliance-related things. The 2 that stood out to me was they have the ability to duplicate data loss prevention policies. So I actually think this is like low-key really cool. All the time whenever I'm working with my partners and we're developing a data loss prevention strategy with them, they will have, okay, we want to do DLP that functions this way, and then they want to do one DLP policy that handles credit cards, one DLP policy that handles PII, so on and so forth. And then one of the things that I really suggest to people that I think not nearly enough organizations do there, it's okay to have different strengths or severities of DLP policies for different parties. For instance, like I'm probably going to be a little bit more scrupulous about if one of my normal employees is sending a credit card than if someone in finance is sending a credit card. You know, they might have a legitimate reason to do it. But so because of that, it's not that uncommon when you go through and look at what eventually ends up being in DLP policies that you end up with multiple policies. And right now, if you say, hey, I want policies that function X way for this group and Y way for this group, but I want 4 different policies for each group, you're manually recreating them and having to make sure you get the settings right and getting everything good. And if you could just craft one correctly and test it and pilot it and make sure that it's good, and then duplicate that and make the small changes to like what sensitive information type it's looking for instance, but all the update groups are the same, all the notifications are the same, stuff like that, super great, and not having to micromanage. I have distinct memories of being in meetings with customers who like have their monitors up and they're like, policy A is on monitor 1, the policy we're creating is on monitor 2, and them trying to go through and replicate stuff. So the fact that you can duplicate them is pretty cool, and I'm sure we'll save some time for people. The other one that I wanted to point out there is they now have incident management for stuff that they're going to be going through and doing with Purview. So the incident management type stuff is going to be And whenever you have DLP happen, and I thought this was really, really cool, you can now go through and look at the incidents under the unified incidents queue in the Microsoft Defender portal. And then additionally, if you actually leverage Sentinel through the Microsoft Defender connector, those alerts or those incidents will actually show up in Sentinel as well too. And so again, I do both of these a lot with my customers because so many customers are concerned about security, and basically having an area that, oh, hey, someone leaked something they shouldn't have leaked, or hey, we noticed someone tried to send out a file with 9,000 credit cards on it. We probably need to have an incident, know what's going on with that. The fact that it's going to be built in native technology, whether it's in Defender or whether it's in Sentinel for you, whatever you use for your management, is really, really cool. And last shout out, they also have the ability to automatically turn on labeling policies. I don't know how I feel about this one, but because it's in the same vein, I figured I'd mention it. The idea behind it is basically admins can configure their auto labeling policies to automatically be turned on if there aren't any changes to the policy within a set number of days from a simulation completion. So the idea behind auto labeling is basically you develop a policy that says anytime a new document is added into a certain section or has a certain information type, I want you to go in and flag it for me so that way I can know it's there. So you're not requiring or depending on that user interaction. This is basically just saying if you simulate that and you think it goes well, you can say, okay, if nothing changes, turn it on in a week so that we're good. I don't know that a lot of people were asking for this because normally it's not hard to remember to go back and turn it on. But still, new update and could potentially make it easier and make power of scale where one person can do more things for you, which is great.
Cool.
Well, I've got another one. I think this is pretty cool. Those of us that have been using Microsoft Edge, one of the most powerful features in it is the ability to have profiles so that we can switch identities and go into different websites differently. Well, Microsoft Edge is coming out with the ability to guide us through automatic profile switching. And so those of us, especially in the consulting world, know what it's like to have different profiles and be different things. One of the most annoying things for me is when I'm in Outlook and I get a link and it knows what profile I'm supposed to be using, but it goes to automatically open in the last instance of Edge that I had open. Well, sometimes that's the right profile, sometimes it's not. But what they're coming out with is this guided switch enablement. And so what that means is when it recognizes what profile I'm supposed to be in, Edge is going to take me through this guided experience to help me switch profiles. And if that works, that will save me some frustration as an end user. So I'm excited to kind of see where that is. I don't think we're ever going to get away from the guided or from the profile experience because honestly, you need profiles for the security. You need profiles for identity. You need that. So if they can make just that user experience easier, that's going to be a great win. So I'm excited to see what they come out with there to just make it a better overall experience. So I think that's great. How about Tamara? You have anything else in there?
Yeah, one other one. Microsoft Teams. Choose preferred download location for files. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Teams will now enable users to select the default download location where they would like to have their files downloaded. This is applicable only on the desktop. So Teams on the web will continue to honor the setting in the browser. And this is supposed to be coming out, must be today because it says May 2022, but it's not rolling out and it's not launched. It's in development.
Well, Tom, you got any more?
Nope, actually, she took mine. So I'm
Sorry.
good to move on to rolling out.
I have one more then.
Okay.
I have the rating poll. And that's
Which
in
I
Microsoft
read as the
Teams.
ratting poll.
Well,
And I'm like, what are they doing?
I have this coworker who's super mean, and I'm going to tell my boss.
which is good because right now it's the multiple choice is the form that you can do inside of Teams. And so sometimes that's not as much fun because I want to ask my team, I don't want a multiple choice. I want to get a rating, which, so the rating poll is one that's coming inside of Forms so you can engage with users there. So excited to see that one coming. So Tom, since you were ready for rolling out, do you just want to take us through rolling out? There's only like a couple of them.
There's only 4 really. I flagged 2 of them, the 2 for Microsoft Viva. They look very similar and they're only like 1 number off. So I think they're very closely related to each other. But for Microsoft Viva, exclude content from topic discovery based off applied sensitivity labels. And the other one is select sensitivity label to exclude sites from topic discovery. So it sounds like it's, the same side of, or two sides of the same coin there. And the description is use Microsoft Information Protection, MIP, sensitivity labels to control which files should not be included in topic discovery. So if you are using Microsoft Viva for that particular functionality, then it should be rolled out. This is worldwide, and you should be seeing it pretty much in your client any day now because it says May of this year. So those two things are done. The other two, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, ability to show multiple services being impacted on a single issue, which I think is really nice because if you see a message, it's like, so what does this affect? And you find out you think it's just one, and it's 4. So they're going to be able to call out specific services now in the overall state. So that's a good thing for those things coming out. And then on 365, actually, why don't you take that last one because you've been talking Purview there, Adam.
Sure. So basically, whenever you go through and look at what's going on with rolling out, they have Teams Data and Content Explorer, which is an update, obviously, to all things Purview. The idea behind it is Teams Data is now available to be browsed through the Content Explorer, which will let you display sensitive information and sensitivity labels detected on Teams Data, which basically just means you can now go through and when you're using Purview, find Teams Data and explore it and find the information you need.
So Adam, Pureview is this new Microsoft thing, and it seems like everything is now kind of getting rolled up into and becoming Pureview. For those that are in the compliance space and in the Microsoft space and need to get a good understanding of Pureview, where's the best place for them to start?
Sure. So there's a couple things. The name came from Microsoft had a product in Azure called Azure Purview, which was an actual compliance related driven thing if you consumed Azure services. And then they mostly kept stuff labeled compliance when you're talking about M365. So if you're an M365 admin and you're trying to get an idea of where you should start, what's now been renamed the Microsoft Purview Compliance Center, which was basically just the Compliance Center, is still the best place to go and find all your tools. So log into the Admin Center, look at compliance. It's always super interesting. I almost said frustrating. It can be frustrating too. Whenever you're going through and looking based off of what current Office 365 version you're in the sense of, are you in GCC, GCC High, Commercial, DoD, whatever, there is a Security Center, a Compliance Center, and a Security and Compliance Center, and those are 3 distinct different admin centers. But the best place to go is just compliance.microsoft.com, which is the Compliance Center inside of the admin centers for Office 365. I would just go through and take a look there. It all has Purview on the name now, but that's a great landing spot where you can find Compliance Manager if you're wanting to go through and look at assessments. It's where you can find stuff like information government, so you can get into MIP labels, you can get into DLP, stuff like that. So same place you were probably going to before, it just has a fancy new name.
Very cool. Thanks, Adam. Cool. Well, Tamara, do you want to take us into the launched?
Nope, I got nothing.
Oh, it's all admin-y stuff. Adam, do you want to take us into launched?
Adam, somehow you got muted.
Somehow I did get muted. There's quite a few fun stuff in launch if you are an admin, as they were alluding to. There's a lot of updates to Windows Virtual Desktop. So if you're using Windows Virtual Desktops, which are obviously, your ability to go through and have VMs you're connecting to online. They now have a migration tool for non-ARM to ARM objects. They also have, you can go to the UK, you can go to Canada. Interestingly, in development, they had some additional geographical regions. They're just launched in some of these, but Australia is coming in the future, Japan's coming in the future, stuff like that for you to be able to go through and do. There's also a couple other ones that I thought was worth noting. Microsoft Defender for 365, differentiated protection for priority accounts. Tom and I believe, briefly talked about this one in one of the episodes we did, but the idea is differentiated protection for priority accounts lets you basically tag users users as a priority account and give them high level of protection. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the episode, where you maybe have a DLP policy for one group and different for another one. You would use priority accounts for your C-level staff in your organization, or you'd use priority accounts for people who are more visible. Maybe you have their email addresses listed on your website, stuff like that. People who would be seen more. And basically the idea behind it is they will be a little bit more scrupulous when they're going through and looking at stuff. They'll basically be more proactive in making sure that those accounts are protected, and you're looking for phishing attempts, you're looking for things along those lines. The final thing that I'll go through and mention, just because I thought it was cool, alerts and notifications for score changes. So if you're in the government clouds, basically related to Microsoft Purview, if your compliance manager activity score change, it will basically notify you. Where I see this most likely, because you'll probably know if you are updating your compliance manager and you go in and like document something you do, all the time as they put out new updates, that impacts your score. Since I've been going through and working with clients over the last 2 years or so on CMMC, I think they've had like 5 major updates, including there's been several iterations of CMMC that have like gone from a 5-point system to a 3-point system, then back to a 4-point system, and version 2.0 now. And so every time one of those major updates come through, and then Microsoft goes back and re-updates their compliance manager, that changes the point totals. It typically adds new things you have to do. If I was a customer who had gone through and documented everything inside of compliance manager, it'd be pretty important to me to know when a new change comes through. This proactive notice to let you know you've had a score change would basically say, hey, your score has decreased, probably because they came out with a new update, or you know, if Microsoft develops a new feature, it may be 3 months till they get that feature pulled into compliance manager for you to do it. All stuff you want to be aware of, so that way when you do get audited, you've done all the work that you need. So pretty cool with that. That's a feature that's in there.
Cool.
Well, the only thing I see is the tenant level analytics for Power Automate in the Office 365 Admin Center. So admins can use out-of-the-box reports to monitor usage and track inventory of flows used for automation procedures at the tenant and environment level. So that's pretty cool. That was the only one that I saw out there and launched. Tom, do you have anything?
I'll mention one. Microsoft Teams. Teams Connect in Teams Admin Center. So basically, the Microsoft Teams Connect, and this is a preview thing, it's basically allowing you to share a channel in Teams with an external entity. So you don't have to like share the entire team. You can just say, okay, this channel is shared. There's going to be the ability, admins will be able to manage the shared channel lifecycle and membership from the Teams Admin Center. They can also use a policy to decide who can create shared channels and who can invite external users to a shared channels. This is now available in previews. So yeah, feel free to check that out if that's something you want to start playing with.
And finally, if anyone in our audience is in India, you now have the ability to print inside of your Azure tenants like we all have since March of 2021.
I've had multiple customers ask about wanting to do universal print more than you'd think.
Well, now they can in India. So, there we have it. That is this week's updates. No canceled items. So nothing to see there, folks, and only 50 updates. So that's good. So next week we will be back. I'm sure we are going to get, we're getting close to the end of the fiscal. So we know what that means. It is going to be Crazy Town Roadmap cleanup is usually what happens between now and the end of June. So we'll get lots of canceled items. We'll get lots of items shifting around where we'll be like, haven't we seen this before? It's typically what happens over the next couple of weeks. And then July tends to be a little bit quiet because everyone is out enjoying the 1 month of beautiful Seattle weather. So, but I don't blame them. I'd do the same. So
the only other announcement that we have
Tamara,
is that Tom and I are now married.
yeah, where's your tiara? You were going to wear that today.
I was going to wear it today. It's downstairs and I had a presentation and I didn't have time to put it on. So maybe next week you'll
next
get
time,
to see the
next
wedding
time.
tiara.
Yes, congratulations, Tom and
if you
Tamara.
if you hear me going on about how wonderful Tamara is, this is not a case of harassment in the workplace. It's, yeah, we're in the same house. So yeah, it's it's permanent now.
And it's also no different than what it was a couple weeks ago.
This is true also, but hey, just work with us here.
Tom may harass me slightly less now that he's a taken man, but other than that, we're probably okay.
Oh, goodness. All right. Too early for this. Too early.
Sorry, Adam, she won.
It's okay. You made the right call, Tom.
Okay, good.
Bye, guys.
All
All right,
right,
guys. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the week.